There's nothing wrong with you, but there is something deeply wrong with the story you've been told to believe. That shrinking is safe. That humility means hiding. That being realistic is wisdom. It's not. It's conditioning. It's the soft language of internalized fear. And you've worn it for so long, you forgot it was a costume. You've mastered the art of staying below your power, of fitting in rooms built for people who fear their own fire, of walking on paths not to explore, but to avoid being seen wandering. But the moment you stop thinking small, life shifts, not gradually, violently, because the universe doesn't expand around you. It expands through you. And the second you give yourself permission to stop apologizing for your potential, the old world starts to fall apart. Not because you're failing, but because you're outgrowing the cage. The walls were never keeping you safe. They were keeping you available to less than you were made for. And every day you continue to think small, you feed the very reality that starves you. But when you stop, when you dare to hold your full weight, life doesn't resist. It responds. This is psyphoria, the radical, holy madness that erupts when you start living in alignment with the size of your soul. Is not a gentle awakening. It's an inner earthquake, the kind that crumbles every narrative that kept you digestible to others. Every thought that said, be humble, be safe, don't take up too much space. But here's the truth. Your playing small never protected anyone. It just delayed your becoming. It numbed your calling in the name of politeness. It masked your brilliance behind fake modesty. Psyphoria is the death of all that. It's when you finally let your ambition be loud. Let your hunger rise. Let your rage speak. And not to destroy, but to rebuild from the rubble of repression. You don't need a new life. You need to break the old thoughts trying to rule this one. And it begins the moment you ask, what if everything I thought was too much was actually not enough? Mindset is not just the lens, it's the limit. And the size of your life will never exceed the size of your thinking. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And you are the sum total of the thoughts you allow to stay. If your thoughts revolve around scarcity, you can't build a world of freedom. If your thoughts orbit guilt, you can't make decisions from clarity. If your thoughts are soaked in survival, you'll call fear intuition and play it safe until your soul dies silently. You cannot think small and live big. You cannot serve the old narrative and write a new chapter. You must kill the inherited beliefs, the ones disguised as wisdom, but wired into your nervous system by people who never gave themselves permission either. You don't rise by being careful. You rise by being clear about what must die inside your mind for something real to live. This isn't about positive thinking. This is about sovereign thought. Thought that bends reality. Thought that leads emotion. Thought that demands the future show up differently. Belief is architecture. It is the invisible blueprint your entire life builds upon. And if your beliefs were built in fear, your house will never feel like home. Look closer. How many of your beliefs are yours? How many are inherited? How many came from a scared parent, a shamed teacher, a society that rewards obedience over originality? How many times have you said, I'm not that kind of person, when the truth is, you were just afraid to become that version of you unapologetically? Beliefs are not facts. They are filters. And if the filter is cracked, everything you see, from relationships to opportunities, gets distorted through the lie. But here's the secret. Beliefs can be rebuilt, burned to the ground, and reconstructed with precision, because when you shift belief, you don't just think differently, you walk differently, you demand differently, you attract and accept and allow things your old self would have called unrealistic. And that's the point, to make the unrealistic your new reality, not through fantasy, but through belief system engineering. Clarity is liberation, because nothing imprisons the mind like vague identity. When you think small, everything feels personal, everything feels risky, everything feels uncertain. But that's not because life is unclear. It's because you haven't decided who you really are. So your mind plays tug of war between your shadow and your potential. Clarity ends that war. It says, I am done negotiating with doubt. This is who I am now. This is what I choose. And everything that doesn't align leaves. Clarity is not just knowing what you want. It's knowing what must go. Because every dream costs something. And small thinking keeps trying to negotiate a discount on a life that requires full ownership. There's no hack for clarity. You sit with the hard questions until the lies fall away. And when they do, your energy stops leaking. Your mind stops spinning. And the path opens. Vision is your soul's refusal to settle. It is a blueprint for a world that does not yet exist, but demands to be built through you. When you think small, you talk yourself out of your own instructions. You rationalize your suppression. You call fear maturity. You betray your calling for the sake of consensus. But vision doesn't care about comfort. Vision doesn't shrink for the room. It expands the room to fit its own fire. Your vision doesn't need to make sense. It needs to pull you so hard you're no longer available for mediocrity. And no, not everyone will understand it. That's how you know it's real. It didn't come from them. It came from you, from the part of you that refuses to die with your dreams still inside. Hold the vision, even when you're scared, even when you're tired, even when the old version of you screams to go back. Because you don't need certainty. You need courage. And every time you act from the vision instead of the fear, life expands to match the size of your yes. Purpose is the permission slip your mind has been waiting for. It doesn't come from a book. It doesn't arrive with applause. It erupts when you finally stop betraying the part of you that knows you were meant for more. Purpose is not an Instagram quote. It's not a job title. It's a burning, a quiet defiance in your chest that says, I will not spend this life in rehearsal. I will not be a background character in a script I didn't write. But small thinking makes purpose impossible, because small thinking needs to feel safe. And purpose doesn't play safe. It plays truth. And truth will always put you in conflict with the systems that profit from your silence. Purpose says, I know this will be hard, but I'm not asking for easy. I'm asking for real. And when you lock into it, when you stop outsourcing your meaning, your thoughts stop wandering. They stop spiraling. They stop asking the world for instructions. Because now the soul is steering, and the mind finally follows. Discipline is the loyalty to the future you chose in moments of clarity. It's not sexy. It's not loud, but it's sacred. Discipline is how you become the person you've only caught glimpses of in your highest moments. Because let's be honest, you've already met that version of you. The one that rises early, that speaks clearly. that doesn't flinch when boundaries are required, that builds instead of waits. Discipline is how you return to them, not occasionally, but repeatedly, even when you're tired, even when no one's watching, especially when your old identity tries to seduce you back into comfort. Small thinkers negotiate with discipline. They say, just this once, just today, I'll start again tomorrow. But the self you are becoming, they're not available for delay. They don't skip the ritual. They don't argue with the mirror. They remember the cost of thinking small, and they refuse to pay it again. Action is the only proof your thoughts were real. You can journal your dreams for years. You can affirm, reflect, visualize. But if your feet never move, you're just decorating a cage. Action is the divorce from hesitation. It's a rebellion against the version of you that lives in planning and dies in almost. You want expansion? You want a life that shatters every ceiling they handed you? Then move. Now, make the call. Post the truth. Apply for the room that scares you. Set the boundary that burns, because the mind won't quiet until the body believes you're serious. And your body only believes action. Small thinkers hesitate. Big thinkers act into alignment. They are not impulsive. They're intentional. They know that overthinking is just fear in fancy clothes. And the only antidote to that fear is movement. You don't wait until the fear leaves. You walk with it until it realizes you're the one in control. Gratitude isn't weakness. It's a sharpening tool. It turns your mind from complaint into command. Because when you start expanding, the first thing your mind will do is tell you what you don't have. Not enough time, not enough support, not enough evidence. But gratitude interrupts that loop. It says, look again. You're standing on gold already. Not because everything's perfect, but because everything is usable. Every lost lesson, every scar strategy, every failure fuel. Gratitude rewires the mind to see what serves instead of what scares. It doesn't make you passive. It makes you present. And in presence, you stop looking for permission to rise. You realize you're already standing on everything you need to begin. Gratitude breaks the scarcity trance. Because when your mind is ruled by what's missing, you will always think small. But when it's ruled by what's possible, you expand. Adaptability is the mental upgrade that makes expansion sustainable. Because growth will require you to shed old habits, old labels, old dreams that were too small for the person you're becoming. And if your mind can't let go, you'll start to sabotage everything that doesn't feel familiar. That's what most people call self-sabotage. It's not weakness. It's loyalty to a smaller identity. But you're not loyal to that anymore. You've outgrown the box. And now, the only thing left to do is burn it. Adaptability says, I will not be married to methods. I am loyal to mission. It says, I will not sacrifice who I am becoming, just to preserve who I used to be. Your flexibility becomes your strength, because you're no longer addicted to how. You're devoted to who. And that devotion, that's what makes you unstoppable. Resilience is your refusal to shrink when the vision is tested, because expansion doesn't come without resistance. That's the price. You will doubt. You will get hit. You will be misunderstood. And the old self will whisper, see, you were better off small. But you won't listen this time, because you know the difference now between peace and passivity, between rest and retreat, between surrender and self-betrayal. Resilience is not just bouncing back. It's coming back bigger, wiser, sharper, less available to illusions. It's knowing the storm is real, but so are you. It's choosing expansion anyway. It's deciding, even if I fail, I will never again shrink to fit a life I've outgrown. That's the resilience of someone who has tasted their own power and refuses to forget the flavor. Learning is how expansion becomes permanent. Because growth without reflection is just momentum, not mastery. The mind must be trained to watch itself, to interrogate its conclusions, to ask, did this thought serve me at this level of self? Because sometimes the enemy isn't the fear. It's the familiar thought you haven't outgrown yet. Learning turns every trigger into a teacher, every misstep into a map, every breakdown into blueprint. It's not about adding more information. It's about deleting the thoughts that no longer belong. The more you learn, the more precise you become. Not just in language, but in identity. You stop thinking small because you've studied the cost and you're not available for it anymore. And now you remember, you were never too much. You were too compressed, folded into silence, trained to disappear inside systems that never made space for your kind of power. But you're not folded anymore. You're rising, not from ego, but from remembrance. The world is still watching, still whispering, still hoping you'll shrink just enough to be digestible again. But you won't, because you've outgrown that diet, because you've tasted expansion, because you've seen what life does. When you stop thinking small, you are not the voice that told you to wait. You are the fire that says, now. So let them stare. Let the old life glitch. Let the small mind panic. You're too big now. Not in arrogance, but in authenticity. And from this point forward, you expand on purpose. And you never, ever shrink again. Because the moment you shrink again, you'll feel it. Not in your bank account, not in your title, but in your spirit. It will ache like betrayal. It will burn like silence after a scream. Because once your soul has stretched, it never fits back into the version of you that once begged to be small just to be safe. You'll try to go back, and life will not let you. Doors that used to open will stay shut. Rooms that used to feel like home will now suffocate you. People who once applauded your moderation will grow uncomfortable with your magnitude. But that's not punishment. That's proof. Proof that you've crossed a threshold, the point of no return, where your old self is too shallow to house your new capacity, where your dreams can no longer be folded to fit someone else's expectations, where your mind no longer bends to survival because it's trained for sovereignty. You don't just walk differently, you vibrate differently. And the world, it can feel it, even if they can't name it, even if they pretend they don't see it. You know, because now you've made the internal shift, the kind that doesn't come with fanfare, but with freedom. And freedom doesn't need to shout. It just walks in, unapologetic, uncompromised, unfolded. So this is where it begins. Not a new chapter, not a new book, a new author, a new language, a new law written inside your blood. I will never again shrink to survive. I will never again edit myself for belonging. I will never again delay the fire inside me, just to keep someone else warm in their comfort. Because your comfort zone, it was a graveyard, a place where big souls buried their dreams under the illusion of being realistic. But you've seen the illusion now. You've named it. You've stared it in the eye and said, I'm done choosing your ceiling as my sky. And in that moment, you earned your expansion. Not because you prayed for it, but because you claimed it in thought, in ritual, in risk, in voice, in the non-negotiable decision to finally show up as the whole damn truth. And now the fire doesn't leave. It doesn't dim because you're no longer waiting for proof. You are the proof. You are the embodiment of a mind that no longer serves fear. You are the echo of a lineage that decided it ends with me. You are not the voice of the oppressed self. You are the sound of its revolution. So speak it, live it, take up all the space, be too bold, be too clear, be too much for every system designed to keep you tame. Because the world doesn't need another well-behaved shadow. It needs the full emergence of people who remember their size and refuse to shrink ever again. You've stepped into that person. You've earned that identity. You've burned the bridge back to small. And from this moment forward, you walk as expansion itself, undeniable, unshakable, unshrinkable. You are no longer available for the life that existed before this remembering. You are here to take the space you were born for, and nothing, not history, not fear, not judgment, will ever fit inside your skin again. Because now, you know, when you stop thinking small, life doesn't just expand. You do. And that changes everything